there's, an anecdote about the fact that women apologize in the office more, in the workplace, more than men. And so then this narrative shows up about, oh, we should teach women they don't need to apologize so much. But maybe women are apologizing the exact right amount. Maybe men are not apologizing enough, right? So this is the frame of reference problem, right? Who are we treating as normal and who are we comparing that to? And I think as workforces become more diverse, both visible and invisible forms of diversity, when you make use of that diversity, companies do better. Their bottom lines do better, right? They have better retention. They have, better profits. Like there's a ton of data to support that. But it means that we have to, make space for different ways of thinking about things and processing information, like including intuition and gut feelings in decision making. That actually, is taking advantage of diversity. And then we see that there are great benefits for companies when they do that.
So this is a big one. This is a big one right in the middle. It's about money, right? So noticing, and this is actually part of what started our conversation, is noticing when money is being used as the reason to stay stuck. So noticing and being able to differentiate, again, the fear and the intuition around where are you future projecting that you're going to be broke and have no money and not be able to pay your bills and do what you love and have a great career. And when it's your intuition just saying, just trust me, if you follow this path that I'm laying out for you, you will actually be in a better position financially than you ever were when you were doing what you did before. Because one of the biggest realizations I've had is that, and this is going a little bit woo-woo, but money is actually an energy, right? So who created money? It was a thing that was decided that if I give you this, you will get this in return. Yeah. And when you look at money as more of an energy, it's about giving and it's about receiving. And we have all these conditions on money, like salary and benefits and security and all these things that make us safe. But when you actually start to peel that back, you realize that what if money is connected to doing what you love and also then using logic to make it make sense after? So what we start to do is, I see this all the time. We've talked about this. You have this idea, well, I'd really love to leave my corporate career and become a life coach or to start doing my own consulting practice. And then what happens? The voice of money comes in and goes, no, you can't. You're an idiot. You'll never make money. You'll never be able to do it. And that mostly stops people from ever leaving and doing what they want to do. So it's becoming aware of that relationship and that knowing of where money is actually trying to keep you stuck rather than move you forward.
So I actually have a couple of stories, but I'll just pick the one you referenced. And we were going for a walk, just an evening walk in our neighborhood, and we're starting out, and I was first in line, and my daughter grabbed my hand and pulled me backwards, and she said, "Wait, Mom, hold on, Dad has to go first." And I said, "Why does Dad have to go first?" Well, because Dad's the leader. To which point I said, "And why is Dad the leader?" And she said, "Because he's a boy." Like, ah, like my heart just sank. And so in that moment, at that age, I said, "Oh, well, that's interesting. What do you think a leader is?" And, tried to get a little bit curious about what she was thinking at the time. And of course, we were off running down the street, probably to the lake and to get an ice cream. So she wasn't too interested in having this conversation at the time. But certainly I must have impressed something on her. Just the fact in those few seconds, I said, "Oh, well, what do you think a leader is?" And, anyone can be a leader, and it's not just the boys. And because 2 years later, I'm not even joking, we were sitting in our living room and she said, "Mom, do you know why I said Dad was the leader?" And like I had whiplash. I just turned, like she remembered this from 2 years before. And I said, "Why?" And it was such an innocuous moment. We were camping and, dads took the kids on a little hike so that the moms could go, have some wine. And I don't have to do air quotes for wine. We were having wine on our walk. And what happened is they got to a kind of a precarious spot where they had to walk kind of down some steep rocks. And so the dads just said, "Hang on, be careful, everyone." And, the rambunctious little boys, like they usually do, "I'll go first, I'll go first." They went down and the dad was holding the hands and helping, especially the girls down. So in her mind, boys go first, dads are the leaders, girls get helped down. from that one innocuous moment from when she was younger. And so when we talk about micro moments, it's catching these times, and there's millions of them, and I'm watching for them with everyone. I'm probably annoying sometimes, but it's, it's catching them. It's asking curious questions. And then I'll just kind of go through the steps that I follow, and then also using like real life examples.
Well, I mean, ADHD just presents so differently in every individual. But if I generalize women versus men, what we see is that, there's three types of ADHD. There's the inattentive, there's the hyperactive, and there's the combined type. And we see a lot more women with an inattentive form of ADHD, which is a fancy way of saying that there's more of that daydreaminess, more of that time blindness. You might see more of that like inertia, like it's hard to get going. But then once they're going, they're like really going and can't stop. And we see less of that hyperactivity. So the people that get picked up early are the young boys that can't sit still in their chair, right? That's
Yes.
the stereotype of ADHD, right? Whereas young girls tend to be more people pleasing. They tend to mask better. They tend to be quieter, and oftentimes less defiant, or defiant in quieter ways. So they don't get noticed till later. And so women just have these different compensatory strategies, and also just the type of ADHD they have makes it less noticeable. Right? It's like a teacher is going to notice the kid that's disrupting the class versus the one that's sitting in the back of the class, getting decent grades, but maybe not paying attention all the time. I talk about, I don't know if you've heard the term, the ADHD tax. But the ADHD tax refers to the myriad of expenses that one ends up paying for having ADHD. And it can be things like late fees, failing to cancel subscriptions, the, parking ticket, whatever it is. There's a million things. And I was once late to catch a flight, and I was 2 minutes late, and that cost me $2,000. So it was my $1,000 a minute learning as to just how much I was paying in ADHD tax.